You're watching Telecom TV from the MEF 16 event in Baltimore. And it's time now for our second panel discussion that focuses on the POC zones. There are 14 different proof of concepts on display here this year. I'm going to focus on one of them now, and I'm joined by three representatives of the proof of concept that looks at enabling customer premise cloud-based services with LSO. Gentlemen, thanks for joining us and talking this through with us. Perhaps I could start by introducing our panel, and if I can start on our far left.
Great. Hi, I'm Keith Falter. I'm the Managing Director for our global SDN and NFV efforts. And amongst my responsibilities are putting together the solutions end-to-end, if you will, and then executing those with customers to spend a lot of time with our customers actually implementing.
Thanks, Keith.
And my name is Christopher Cullen. I work for InfoVista, Director of Product Marketing for their business services solutions. So essentially we're a software company. One of our key lines of business is service assurance. And when it involves carriers and their business services, it involves me.
Thanks, Christopher.
And I'm Glenn Swanson from Oracle Communications. I'm a Senior Principal Product Manager there, and my main responsibilities are in the service and network orchestration area. But Oracle has a set of products that span from the business application level all the way down into the network. Great.
Well, nice to meet all three of you.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
If we can just look at the whole premise of this particular proof of concept. Keith, perhaps if I can start with you. What's the rationale behind it? Why did we need such a POC?
I think this goes back to solving a problem that's kind of ancient in many worlds with both the enterprise and the service provider, and it's really getting to a standards base for interoperability. It's been the #1 problem, and it's a very expensive problem for both the service provider and enterprise community alike. Different sets of standards, different sets of protocols, lack of adherence to any meshing of those types of capabilities as well also. So it's interesting that a new and frontier technology has a chance to really solve what is a really, really old and very expensive problem in both the enterprise and the service provider today.
Christopher?
I think also it provides a safe environment, if you will, to try things out, to work together across multiple vendors, include open source components as well, and helps us, I think, learn from one another as well as learn from our champions, and then communicate what we've learned and get feedback from the marketplace, which is really important when we talk about being agile. If we all do our own things one at a time, we won't coalesce to that standard.
Because Glenn, there's quite a few players in this POC. There's a lot of companies participating.
Yeah, it's one of the benefits of this POC is it's very comprehensive. We build on network as a service. We add additional functionality. It goes all the way from a product, customer experience level, down to the network. It illustrates how we can extend the services that are deployed to the customer in an agile fashion. And I think the benefit of these types of POCs for MEF is that we can drive some of the innovations, identify areas where the specs have to improve and the mature of the industry.
So what are we all contributing? Maybe we can just sort of talk about specific elements that we're contributing.
So I think once again this is a perfect demonstration of a multi-vendor environment that would be very, very typical of what a service provider or an enterprise would encounter today. And the fact that there are multiple components for control, for orchestration, for customer edge units, in multiple ways in which they impact both the network and the transport layer, as well as also the customer experience and really enabling that. But once again, I'll pull this back around to I think we need to make sure that we associate multi-vendor in a multi-vendor environment within the service provider enterprise network as not being cost prohibitive, if you will. So these kind of standards bring it together, make it easier for companies to interface together.
Christopher, what is it that you're contributing?
Sure. Well, the main thing is obviously the end-to-end assurance, and that may sound simple, but if you look at, for example, the MEF's third network vision, it's built on 3 pillars: agility, orchestration, and assurance. And the reason is when you look at the third network, it's the ubiquity of the internet and the assurance of Carrier Ethernet 2.0. It's that assurance component that really is the differentiator. It's what adds the value to it. So we're doing the end-to-end service assurance of that network as a service. That's one component. The other component, of course, is all of this. I think we talk a lot about these, the sexy technology terms, SDN, NFV, but the sexy acronym in reality is P&L. It's about driving revenue. And one of the elements of this is the application visibility service, or application performance intelligence. So as part of all of the services we're doing in this proof of concept, through the catalog, you can enable application performance visibility through the network from a self-service portal to allow the enterprise business service customers to maximize the value of that WAN and understand, how they're consuming and using it. And they may move from there onto higher value services, which are part of the proof of concept.
Glenn, what's Oracle contribution?
So Oracle has a great breadth of products, and we're able to bring that business application layer into play and demonstrate customer experience, interacting with things like billing and how a product view of MEF services is translated down into a service abstraction. And we also provide the service and network orchestration functionality that coordinates the delivery across this multi-vendor, partially virtualized, partner-enabled network.
Why is the POC using an open software architecture? What's the rationale there?
So I think the open architecture that we're aligning with is the LSO reference architecture. And that's been developed as a collaborative activity within MEF. And so it has our input as a vendor, and it's also got service provider input that makes it a very adaptable, very pragmatic architecture to adopt.
Does SD-WAN play a part here? Because this is something that we're hearing increasingly a lot about. Certainly the past 6 months, we seem to be hearing an awful lot about SD-WAN.
Yeah, I think it's a really, really important and critical factor. And as a matter of fact, if we look at implementations that are occurring, kind of the first in the virtualization space, this is clearly where there's figures that are saying that up to 30% of the enterprise are already self-implementing on SD-WAN kind of technologies. There's a couple key tenets to that also, right? Number one, SD-WAN allows for kind of that DPI functionality and that ability to look at the application layer and provide the conscientious decisions that can either be controlled in an automated fashion or by the user themselves on what they're going to select to make sure the transport meets to the SLA, but also transport matches to the needs of the business as well too. So I think SD-WAN is a really, really key tenet to that, and it's fairly endemic across the network and its responsibilities, either in a centralized function or in a distributed function.
In fact, the proof of concept itself literally provides two options when you think of connectivity. So yesterday it was presented top 5 differentiators of carrier Ethernet. Number 1 was coverage. Top 5 reasons to go with LSO. Number 1 was faster provisioning. So when you think about coverage as the driver to purchase, and you think about the enterprises want faster provisioning, and you put those two together, that says, well, you either need to be able to partner rapidly, which is what we're showing, and actually one of the unique elements of the proof of concept is the fact that it's over multiple operators. And if you don't do it that way, the other option is you SD-WAN enable a site that's remote on an internet. And so it gives the enterprise customer the flexibility to go either way, and hence the service provider can benefit by giving them the full choice.
Has this been under development for some time, this POC?
Yeah, yes, it has been, and I think one of the, just kind of reverting back very quickly, one of the underlying pieces with this also is, MPLS and the networks and the platforms that are in place today are a very important asset, right? And so people want to sweat that asset as long as they possibly can. So SD-WAN also, has been thought of for a really, really long time as the ability to keep revenues, to keep MPLS alive in the networks today, because it truly takes advantage. Yes, maybe there'll be some eroding revenues, in MPLS, but it keeps it alive as one of the practical choices. So people have been thinking for a long time about a way to keep an asset with a much higher value for a much more tangible time.
And how does this all feed back into the MEF's work, and how can MEF and its members benefit from your conclusions, really? Chris, Dane,
okay.
Go for it.
Okay, so I think some of the learnings that come out of this are the importance of the modeling that ties together a solution like this and enabling agility. The fact that we were able to take network as a service and add value-added service to it in an agile manner, that provides a lot of validation of the importance of catalog-driven architectures. It also demonstrates, to make this an automated flow-through process, the importance of the APIs, particularly between partners in an LSO architecture. That would be the interlude or the Sonata interface reference points.
So what more can we learn, or what are our takeaways from the POC?
Sure, the other elements within LSO is what's called service operations functionality. And so you can think of some of the traditional elements of fulfillment and insurance as part of that. And as we move, we've moved away in the industry from sort of an umbrella solution for everything to more of a best-of-breed plug-and-play approach. That's what all these APIs are about, so that service providers can make those decisions flexibly. So part of that is being able to communicate. And one of the things we're doing between the Oracle software and the InfoVista software, for example, is communicating the critical context of the elements of assurance. So you can have data, which doesn't do you any good till you turn it into information. Yeah. And a key part of the information is what service is it related to, and what customer is it related to. And sharing and synchronizing in real time on that information as that data is streamed in and then presented to the various stakeholders that need that information, or fed back into the system to change. So that's one element. If I can deliver, if I can deliver a second element, a little bit deeper, but there are, we've been doing a survey recently of people that work for Carrier Ethernet providers, and close to 90% of them say the industry needs standards. Interestingly, there are standards published for that in 2012. In the same survey, 30% are unaware that such standards exist. So in this proof of concept, with the ADVA, who's part of it as well, we are actually demonstrating those standard metrics and the value of those standards, because it's not about having a standard, it's about having adoption of the standard, and that's a key element of this proof of concept.
Right, and Keith, final question to you then. Where do we go from here? What else can we learn, and do we take it further?
I think there are further steps to be made. Standardization of interface types, right? We're going to ask APIs to do a lot of what the legacy type of interfaces are doing today. And so, how do we do that to make sure that not only we're making the right choices, but the choices make economic sense as well also? It's a big conversion that we're going to have to do, and hopefully the standards that we create will help the providers and the enterprises to absorb a lot of those costs, because they'll force some of the costs back down to us, the vendors and the providers, to play together much better. And I think that's a perfect example of what LSO has begun to provide, and really the next steps.
Fascinating. Well, Keith, Glenn, and Christopher, thank you all very much indeed.
Thank you.